Judge Walter Grayson thought he was dealing with another clueless teenager, just another name in the endless docket of Los Angeles County. But as the minutes ticked by, he realized the young man standing at the defense table wasn't like the others. The courthouse that morning was packed. The gallery overflowed with curious spectators, reporters scribbling notes, and locals who had nothing better to do than watch another criminal case unfold. The air itself seemed heavy, thick, almost suffocating. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, the sound bouncing off marble walls, feeding the tension like fuel to a fire. The defendant's table looked oversized for the young man who stood beside it. He kept his hands in his pockets, chin lifted, not defiantly, but with a kind of quiet steadiness that didn't match his age. 19-year-old Jalen Dawson had been charged with grand theft auto and resisting arrest. Both felonies, both serious. And yet Jalen didn't fidget, didn't break eye contact, didn't let the weight of the courtroom crush him the way so many before him had. Judge Grayson leaned back in his leather chair, fingers tapping idly on polished mahogany. His lips curled into a half-smirk, half-sneer as he peered at the young man over his glasses. "You think you're some kind of legal expert?" His voice dripped with condescension. "This isn't a debate club, kid." A wave of chuckles rolled across the room. The bailiff, the stenographer, even the prosecutor. They were all in on the joke, but Jalen wasn't laughing. He didn't so much as blink. He had been waiting for this moment. Not exactly this one, but something close enough. For years. While other kids memorized basketball stats, he memorized case law. While his friends played video games, he replayed mock trials in his head, arguing imaginary cases before imaginary juries. His mother, Denise Dawson, had worked as a paralegal for more than 2 decades. From her, Jalen had learned how prosecutors cut corners, how judges played favorites, how some defense attorneys barely lifted a finger. He absorbed everything. By 14, he could dissect a trial better than most law students, but none of that mattered to Judge Grayson. To him, Jalen was just another kid who thought he was smarter than the system. "Let's make this quick," the judge sighed, flipping open the case file. "I have a golf game at 2. More laughter trickled through the room, but this time something shifted. Jalen's lips twitched into a faint, almost imperceptible smirk. Grayson had just made his first mistake. The courtroom hadn't noticed, but Jalen had. The prosecutor, Mitchell Carrington, rose from his chair. He carried himself like a man who had already won. His suit was sharp, his tie immaculate, his shoes polished enough to catch the light. His voice boomed with rehearsed confidence, the kind of rhythm you only perfect after giving the same speech 100 times. "Your Honor, the state will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the defendant, Jalen Dawson, was caught red-handed in a stolen 2022 Audi A6, reported missing just hours before his arrest." Carrington paced in front of the jury, his words flowing effortlessly. Officers pursued the defendant through downtown Los Angeles, where he attempted to flee before being apprehended. His fingerprints were found on the steering wheel. "The evidence," he concluded, "speaks for itself." The gallery stirred, whispers spreading like wildfire. On the surface, it sounded airtight. A stolen car, a chase, fingerprints, case closed. Judge Grayson glanced at Jalen over his glasses, then nodded to the prosecutor. "Go on." Carrington turned to the jury, his voice rising with false empathy. "The defense will try to convince you this was a misunderstanding, that Mr. Dawson is just an unfortunate victim of circumstance. But let's be honest. What kind of victim runs from the police?" The tension thickened. The jury shifted uncomfortably. The prosecutor shuffled through his papers. "Your Honor, we have the testimony of Officer Daniel Ruiz, who personally witnessed the defendant behind the wheel. The car was confirmed stolen. The arrest was made by the book." Grayson leaned forward. "Sounds straightforward to me. For most people in the room, it did. But Jalen had been watching trials long enough to see cracks in the paint." He stayed silent, waiting. Finally, Grayson tapped his gavel lightly. "All right, let's hear the defense." Lisa Thornton, a frazzled public defender, stood awkwardly. She had barely spoken a word all morning. "Your Honor, my client—" Jalen touched her arm. A silent request. She froze, hesitated, then sat back down. For the first time, Jalen spoke. His voice was calm, steady. "I'll be representing myself, Your Honor." The room fell silent. Grayson blinked. "You'll what?" "I'll be defending myself." A wave of murmurs swept the gallery. The bailiff raised his brows. Carrington smirked, then let out a short laugh. This should be interesting. But no one was laughing when Jalen stepped forward. He let the silence stretch, just long enough to make them uneasy. "Your Honor," he began, "before I address the court, I'd like to confirm something with the prosecution." Carrington folded his arms. "Go ahead." "You said Officer Ruiz personally saw me behind the wheel before my arrest." "Correct?" "That's right. And that testimony is in his report?" "Of course." Jalen nodded slowly, then turned to Grayson. "Your Honor, I move to dismiss that testimony." "On what grounds?" the judge asked, unimpressed. "Because Officer Ruiz never saw me in that car. In fact, he wasn't even on duty when the chase began." The gallery erupted in murmurs. Carrington stiffened. "What are you talking about?" "Your Honor," Jalen pressed, "I request that the court obtain Officer Ruiz's GPS logs from that night. If his report is accurate, the data will confirm it. But," he let the pause linger, "I have a feeling it won't." The jury exchanged glances. Grayson frowned at Carrington. "Counselor, any issue with verifying those logs?" Carrington hesitated. "Just long enough." "Too long." "No objections," he said finally, his voice tight. And just like that, the first crack widened. Carrington scrambled to recover. "Your Honor, while we wait for GPS records, the fact remains the defendant's fingerprints were found on the steering wheel of the stolen car." Jalen nodded. "That's true. Let's talk about that." He turned toward the jury, locking eyes with each one. "The prosecution wants you to believe that finding my fingerprints on a car proves I stole it. But think about this logically. If you walk into a store, try on a jacket, then put it back, your fingerprints will be on it. If someone steals that jacket hours later, does that mean you're guilty?" A murmur spread. A few jurors exchanged glances. The Audi was parked outside a 7-Eleven hours before it was reported stolen. I was there with friends. I leaned against the car. I even opened the door because it was unlocked. But I didn't take it, didn't drive it, didn't steal it. Just a dumb, careless moment. Does touching something make you a criminal? The silence was heavy. Carrington shifted uneasily. "And while we're on the subject," Jalen continued, "let's talk about the fingerprint analysis itself. Was the forensic specialist subpoenaed to testify here today?" Grayson blinked, then looked to Carrington. "No," the prosecutor admitted reluctantly. Jalen's lips pressed into a thin smile. "So the state wants to use forensic evidence without presenting the expert who processed it. No cross-examination, no verification, nothing. Interesting." The jury stirred again. "Your Honor," Jalen said, "I'd like to submit into evidence a statement from the registered owner of the vehicle, Mr. Raymond Whitaker." Carrington tensed. "Do you recall what he told officers the night his car was stolen?" Jalen asked, pulling out a transcript. He didn't wait for a response. Mr. Whitaker told police, and I quote, "I left my car running when I ran inside the gas station. Some kid must have jumped in and taken off. But it wasn't the guy you arrested. I saw the kid. He was white." The gallery gasped. "That," Jalen said, holding up the document, "is from the original police report. The same report the prosecution conveniently left out." Grayson's eyes narrowed. "The state arrested me because I was nearby, not because I matched the description, not because of solid evidence. Because I was the easy answer." Carrington shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor." But Jalen cut him off, his voice sharp. "I was blocks away, walking home with snacks when they grabbed me. I wasn't in the car. I wasn't running. I wasn't fleeing. The only thing tying me to this crime is bad police work and lazy assumptions." The silence was deafening. Grayson rubbed his temple. The case, which had looked like a sure thing, was unraveling fast. Finally, the judge leaned forward. "Counselor, do you have anything further?" Carrington's face flushed. "No, Your Honor." Grayson exhaled. "Case dismissed." The room exploded, half in outrage, half in relief. Reporters scribbled furiously. Spectators muttered. Jalen didn't flinch. He simply stood there, letting the weight of the moment sink in. Judge Grayson looked at him with something new in his eyes. Not amusement, not disdain, something closer to respect. "Mr. Dawson," he said as Jalen reached the door. Jalen stopped. You should consider law school. Jalen smirked. He already had. Outside, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Microphones thrust forward. Cameras flashing. Jalen! Did you know the judge would dismiss the case? How does it feel to outsmart the prosecution? What's next for you? He pulled his hoodie over his head and pushed through the noise. He wasn't interested in the spectacle. This wasn't about proving how clever he was. His mother was waiting at the bottom of the steps. Arms folded, eyes sharp with worry. Boy, you scared me half to death, she muttered, pulling him into a tight hug. Had to take a risk, Ma. You always were stubborn. She didn't let go right away. Across the street, Judge Grayson stood by his car, watching. His posture was different now. The arrogance was gone. His expression unreadable, thoughtful, almost remorseful. He hadn't expected the case to challenge him. But Jalen had done something few ever managed. He made the system look at itself. And for once, the system blinked. The real question was how many other cases had gone the same way. How many convictions built on shortcuts, bias, or laziness? Jalen had the knowledge to fight back. Most didn't. That thought burned in him. This wouldn't be the last courtroom he stood in. But next time, he wouldn't be the defendant. He'd be the attorney. And when that day came, he wouldn't be standing alone. If this story made you think even for a moment, share it. The justice system runs on laws, but it's built by people. And people can change if we make them. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that matter. Let's keep the conversation going. Because next time, it might not be Jalen. It might be someone you know.